Is your mic on?
You got your mic on?
There you go.
All right, here we go. This meeting is called to order. It is now 7 o'clock on February 7th, 2023. I ask Councilman Hancock to give our opening prayer.
Let us pray. Almighty and loving God, bless all that have gathered here tonight. Bless this council as we meet to make decisions for the betterment and future of our community. Give us the wisdom to make sound decisions that will help guide us where we want to go. We all want our community to be the very best that it can be, both now and as we grow. We know that you already know the future and that you will guide us with your direction. Bless us with your divine love and peace. Amen.
Amen. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, you have a copy of tonight's agenda. Are there any changes need to be made at this time? Hearing none, need a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes held on January 3rd, 2023. This was regular scheduled council meeting. Are there any changes need to be made at this time to those minutes? If there are none, need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Next on the agenda is persons appearing before council. Who do you have?
First is Wendell Roberts.
Wendell Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council people. I'd like to address the issue of the impact fees. The cost of development. There are those who sing in the praises of increased tax rates and business patronage, but what will it cost us to support this in any new development? Will it cost us lives as we have a precipitous increase in traffic? Will it cost us less water because we have increased demand on our supply? Will it cost us less access to services such as parks, libraries, schools? Will it cost us increased response time from police, fire, and EMS because our vehicles are busy? If we fail to implement impact fees as recommended by the Planning Commission and the consultant that you hired, are you willing to simultaneously increase the town's tax rate to supplement the existing public services as they are today? Are your constituents willing to pay an increase in tax? I'm not. I'll read you an article out of the Pageland Progressive paper, which is fictitious, from July of 2023, a few months from now. A Monroe developer backs out on a deal to build close to 600 homes in the small town of Pageland, South Carolina, where growth has been insignificant in the recent past. The town board implemented impact fees, which were a cause for this tragedy. No new housing will be built. No new businesses will be opened. The Main Street will dry up in a matter of time. Main Street, as it is why I moved here. Taxes will plummet as exiting residents move out of Pageland to lower South Kakalaki. That's a fictitious place. That's what you're being led to believe will happen. if we implement the impact fees. Allow me to read you an excerpt from the American Planning Association. Local governments throughout the country are increasingly using impact fees to shift more of the cost of financing public facilities and services from the general taxpayer to the beneficiaries of the new development. As a general matter, impact fees are capitalized into the development's value. There's been little to demonstrate that the imposition of impact fees has stifled development. Little to demonstrate that impact fees have had a negative impact. Impact fees, when based on a comprehensive plan and used in conjunction with a sound capital plan, can be an effective tool for ensuring adequate infrastructure and adequate growth where and when it's anticipated. You have received the recommendation of the Planning Commission, which had considerable public input, and we should implement these fees as recommended by the consultant. Individually, I implore the board to follow these recommendations of the consultant as reviewed by the committee. Implement impact fees as they are submitted. These are my friends and neighbors right here behind me. I don't speak for them. I speak for Wendell Roberts. But if you'd like, raise your hand if you agree with what I've said so far. Okay. May I add, I understand there's an executive.
Got about 30 seconds. We'll try to do 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
Everybody an opportunity.
I'm
sorry.
about to wrap it up. I understand there's an executive session. Any shenanigans will not be received well from your constituents. Will we lose a development? We might lose a developer, but there's plenty more out there. Growth is coming. We need to be proactive, not reactive. We, through your decision making, have to balance growth with needed services. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who do you have next?
Mr. Griffin is next.
Okay. One thing I meant to say a while ago, those that have signed up for public speaking, we try to limit it individual to 5 minutes, and we have 20 minutes for this segment.
Okay, I'm gonna do it real quick then. All right, I'm here to talk about the impact fees also, but I'm gonna give you a couple analogies. My grandfather was a wise man, made his money on oil and natural gas, and he wouldn't have got there without a little wisdom. So one of the things he always told us was, how do you catch and kill a raccoon? I'll tell you how you catch them. If you ever read the book Where the Red Fern Grows, you drill a hole in a log and you put nails down each side of it. You throw a shiny object in the bottom. Raccoon will grab it. He'll hold it until you come up and kill him. He will not let go of it. I believe what's going to happen in the executive session tonight is they're going to dangle something shiny in front of you contractually. I don't know. What's it going to be? A new firehouse? Maybe 2 more police officers for our police department? What shiny object are you going to throw in the trap for our council tonight? That's what I want to know. But we're not going to get to know because this is going to be held in executive session with something that affects us all. So when they put that shiny object in front of you, I truly hope you're not the raccoons and is willing for our town to die for the shiny object that they're going to offer you tonight. The other thing is, you paid $40,000 to experts, an expert firm, to do this study. Now, I don't know. I've looked at all your resumes and LinkedIn's. I don't think anyone on this council is an expert on economic development as far as impact fees go. I'm not. I don't think most of our planning commission is either. But you know what we did? We spent $40,000 to bring in a subject matter expert to do this study. Now, why would we do that if we already are experts on it? So, my other concern is we have 3 developments. We have Laney Farms, we have Eagle Crest, and a new one you're going to vote on tonight. Is there anybody here from Eagle Crest or True Homes? Nope, because they're not fighting these impact fees. We have another developer, TS4, who's getting ready to build a development. And this is what he stated today, which is all in your packets. TS4 owns the property on Usher Street that was recently approved for annexation into the city of Pageland. TS4 plans on developing 40 to 50 single-family homes and up to 20 townhomes on the piece of land that has been approved for annexation. We, the owners of TS4, are in favor of impact fees to offset the impact the new development will have on the existing public infrastructure. This is a developer that owns a local industry, invests within our community, and has a vested interest in this. He's also going to be building a new industrial building that will be impacted by these impact fees. He is a part of our community. The money that he is going to spend is going to stay here. So you have an expert report, experts, to develop this impact fee study. You have a developer who's coming in from out of town, is going to make his money and leave. Of course, I don't blame him. I mean, that's the American dream, is to make more money. But it shouldn't be on the back of our citizens, on the back of this town. So I ask you tonight, do we take the advice of the experts and our planning commission, or do we let the fox tell us how to build our hen house? Think about it. They're going to tell us how we're going to build our hen house? Or are we going to let the experts who know what we're supposed to be doing, are we going to take that advice? Or are we going to take the advice of the developer who is going to profit highly off of this? So you're going to hear some more facts in a little bit about the numbers, but you fought. This town fought going with the county's comprehensive plan. Why? Because you wanted to keep your own planning commission. That planning commission has told you and endorsed and said this is what this town needs based on professionals. So why did you keep them if you're not going to listen to them?
Who do you have next?
Next is David Dale.
Mr. Dale.
I think it's, huh? We've got David Dale, then Jacob Dale. Your name sure is there.
He is not even signing in.
Okay.
Hey, we appreciate you. Hey, Dave, we appreciate you for signing in. Then.
What
We
about
appreciate
Jacob?
it.
I'm gonna be with the planning commission.
Then that takes us to Perry Cook.
I'm not speaking.
Okay, strike that one. Who do you have next?
That's everybody to sign.
That's everybody. Who's next? Anybody? Nobody wants to speak? Got this big crowd. Nobody wants to speak? I'll give 30 more seconds for consideration.
We're at 10 minutes and 6 seconds, so we've got
Oh, that's what I said,
almost 10 minutes
Yeah.
available.
Last call? David? Jacob? Mr. Cook? Anyway, we'll move on then. Under old business, impact study. Receipt of resolution from planning commission and impact fee study. Mr. Rivers.
I'm gonna ask the planning commission, members to come up, here. Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing us a couple of minutes to speak. In January of last year, you asked the Planning Commission to send a resolution to us and asked us to study and have a consultant prepare an impact fee study. And the cost was, as said, about $40,000. We received the complete study on January 12th of this month. And at a special planning commission meeting, after careful study and consideration, the planning commission voted in the majority on January 31st, 2023, to recommend the impact fees as recommended in the study by Tischler Bice. I wanted to have the planning commission up here so you can see us. This is the group that's -1. Mr. Ratliff's not here, but we voted in the majority to pass that resolution for you to implement the impact fees as they're written, which is at the maximum. And you say, well, why do we want it at the maximum? We'll give you some rationale behind our decision, because this is an important, pivotal moment in Pageland. We're at a crossroads where we can grow or we can not grow. We spent a lot of time, a lot of energy researching all of the pros and cons of impact fees, and there was a lot of information out there. The impact fees will help us and help you to manage and plan for sustainable, incremental growth. The proposed fees would generate approximately $12,000 per home. That's no secret. You guys have the fee schedule. That's impact fees and water and sewer, so it varies by the type of structure. This will pay for water and sewer needs. We just spent $18 million. We have an $18 million sewer plant. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. These impact fees will help to make the payments on that. We got a large note that we have to pay back on that. These impact fees will help offset that cost. It also provides for infrastructure for the police department, the fire department, and public works to support the growth and maintain our service levels. It's not increasing our service levels, it's maintaining what we have. Impact fees are not a golden parachute that we just gonna make a big, huge windfall of cash and we're all gonna be living the good life. It's to absorb the additional square footage, footprint of the town, and the additional residents that will be here. We spent some time yesterday going over some crucial information on the costs and as compared to other places. And we took the tax revenue that's anticipated, not impact fee revenue, the tax revenue under our current conditions, what we charge for our property taxes. So we took the town's operating budget, general operating budget of $3,235,200, and we extracted out what the fire department's part was out of the general operating fee, which is $280,000 roughly, and the police department has a $1.1 million budget out of that $3 million general operating fund. So we know what the percentage was. So we took what the current tax structure is, property tax structure is, and figured if we built home price at $283,000, what would the property taxes be on that home? What would the net? You get a tax bill, it's school fees and county fees and all of these other fees. Well, what's the town's actual portion of that? So we called down to the assessor's office, spent some time on the phone with them and auditor's office for the tax millage. And on 100 homes, not on one home, on 100 homes, the net property tax revenue for the police department on 100 homes is only $11,700 for 100 homes. That's all that the town would get that would go to the police department if you kept it at the same ratio as you are now, same percentage of the budget. Fire department's part would be $2,975 for every 100 homes built at $283,000 value. And the town wouldn't see any of this revenue when you build a house. The tax bills don't come out till the next year. So you've got that time frame between, the closing, them taking possession, and the taxes being due. So you've got a time frame there that these tax revenues will not be realized. Even though the proposed growth is planned, the town under its current financial position, the impact fees would help offset the cost of this growth. We looked at some comparable mortgages. If you were in Mecklenburg County, assuming you got roughly the same type of house, the difference in the mortgage price on a single-family home at $260,000, the mortgage is roughly $1,834 a month without the impact fees. It's $271,305 or $1,914 per month, which is roughly a difference of $80 a month on a 30-year fixed mortgage. $80 a month. The property taxes on that same home, $271,305 home in Charlotte, is $2,794. In Pageland, it would be $1,248 per year. That's a $1,546 savings in property taxes alone between Mecklenburg County and Pageland, because people are moving down here. So giving you some comparisons. I've polled the department heads. The only one that's here is the fire chief, and I'll ask him because I know the answers from the other three. Chief, put you on the spot. Under the current conditions we have now, are you able to provide continue the same level of service with the additional growth without impact fees?
The answer is the same answer we've had for the last 10.5 months, and that's absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
I asked Chief Short, who was involved in this meeting, because we asked what your budget is. His answer was no. You can't absorb the growth without the impact fees, without additional infrastructure. Public Works, talked to Public Works today. Stewart, can you absorb under the current budget you have, can you absorb the additional footprint, size of the town, and the additional residences? If we raise taxes the max every year, we raised it 2.5 mils, it brought in $20,000 roughly for a town. Public Works can't handle it. Parks and Rec can't handle it. So the study reads at the top of page 5. The town can adopt amounts that are lower than the maximum amount shown. However, a reduction in fee revenue will necessitate an increase in other revenues, a decrease in planned capital expenditures, and/or a decrease in the town's level of services. I don't think y'all are prepared to face your constituents and say, we're going to reduce your services because we're growing. Question's been raised, well, why are the fees so high? It's more than they are in Fort Mill. Well, I did some research and spent some time today, a couple hours on the phone with planning folks in Fort Mill and York County. I told them what we were doing and why we were doing it and how we were doing it. And I said, tell me about your fees and how they're set up. And the answer came back very, very quickly was that their property tax rate is almost 2.5 times what ours is. That's why their impact fees are much lower, because it doesn't take as many fees to meet the demand because the property taxes are higher. So it's not a question of, we just come up with some arbitrary fee that's outrageous. We had an expert conduct a study, and the Planning Commission is behind this. Now, we had one member abstain from the vote, but we did vote in the majority to recommend a resolution. I'm going to read that to you right now. Resolution recommended the Town of Pageland and Town Council to enact an impact fee ordinance as provided for in the South Carolina Development Impact Fee Act, as more fully set forth in Section 61910, Code of Laws of South Carolina, 1976, as amended. Whereas the Town of Pageland Planning Commission recommends Town Council to implement impact fees within the municipal limits of the Town of Pageland for the primary purpose of funding capital improvements which will increase the service capacity of certain municipal facilities and equipment, fire protection and recreation consistent with South Carolina Development Impact Fee Act. The act, as more fully set forth in section 61910, Code of Laws of South Carolina, 1976 as amended, and whereas the Page Planning Commission, as required by law, conducted a study and included a capital improvements plan and proposed impact fees outlined in the study. And whereas an impact fee study report and affordable housing analysis was completed by the planning consultant Tischler Bice, who presented their study to the Town of Pageland Council, the Town of Pageland Council and Pageland Planning Commission, and whereas the Town Planning Commission has determined that development and adoption of a development impact fee ordinance with the fees recommended by the consultant would be in the best interest of the Town of Pageland. Be it further resolved that the Pageland Planning Commission wishes to proceed with development of a development impact fee ordinance for the following categories: police facilities and equipment, fire facilities and equipment, parks and recreation facilities and equipment. Do you have any questions?
Questions, comments from council? Not this time, but I appreciate everything that you have. I think we got some more information that we want to share with the public in
Okay.
addition to what you already presented.
Okay.
Thank y'all for your hard
Thank you
work.
very much.
Mr. Slide, do you have anything to add to this at this time?
We've had a lot of discussions about this. There's been a good bit of, there's been a lot come across my desk the last few days about impact fees. I've got a lot of research. I've got a lot of, folks. We've had economic development. There's a copy of a letter that economic development sent to the town, requesting us to look at the idea of reduced impact fees or no impact fees for industries. Planning Commission, they did the resolution to impose all of the impact fees. I've been in touch with department heads. I told them they need to put together, actually I don't think I've gotten to all of them, but I talked to the guy from Crystal Bosch yesterday. I did talk during our weekly meeting. I told them they need to go ahead and put together what they need in the capital improvement plan to so that we could get it back up to this revised. That's one of the things they were waiting on. We still have another chapter of that impact study that has to be wrote before we can even go to a first reading on it. That's why there's not a first reading tonight, because we're not ready yet. So
State law, I'll go ahead and answer that question real quick. State law requires a 30-day notice for public hearing. We just got our notice from the Plan Commission last week. So our advertisement went in today, and it was published in the Pageland Progressive, and I think the link. So you have 30 days notice for public hearing. The plan is, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of this. I think the plan is to have first reading at our March 7th council meeting, public hearing on the 14th, and we'll probably have a subsequent second reading at that time. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
and just to comment on that, if it's a lie, it was told by the professional who's made this plan.
Yeah.
Because that's what he told me on the telephone.
Yeah.
I did call him last week to make sure that we had everything that we needed and what our next step was. I do have a proposed ordinance that has been sent to us by the attorney that we're working with to work on this, but we don't have all the pieces together to put this together. Now, that being said, the conversation with the attorney last week, we have to have a 30-day notice. It's not a 15-day notice like most of our notices are. There is a 30-day notice. I did not know this until last week. I went ahead and put in the notice in the paper as soon as I went ahead and had everything drawn up, put in the paper whenever I found out there was a 30-day notice. That way we could go ahead and have it put in the paper for March 14th. That way, there could be a public hearing on it as soon as possible, because this, if you'll look, March 14th, the actual 30 days runs out March the 9th, which is a Friday afternoon. So we set the meeting for March 14th, which was the next Tuesday. Most meetings that I schedule for town, I try to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays is a busy day, Wednesdays is the day people like to go to church, and people, when they get off on Fridays, they like to go places. So, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's why I set it for the following Tuesday. So that's what we have. So our plan is for the March 7th meeting is to have first reading. Y'all have
Any questions, comments from council? And one thing that I'll share this, I've spoken with several individuals, one specific individual, my wife, who works for Lancaster County Water Sewer District. And she's an engineer for them, and they have somebody was challenging me about impact fees that relates to water and sewer. And they said Lancaster County did not impose such fees. Well, I knew that wasn't true because my wife is the one that she's the one that invoices the fees for Lancaster County Water Sewer District, which is a quasi-state or governmental entity. They use a different law that's defined, of course, in the law, to use something other than impact fees called capacity fees. And I think, Mr. Ford, you may have some information on this that you've talked to Haynesworth Central Boyd regarding that matter, correct?
Correct.
Can you share that information with the public?
Well, before we get to that, let's roll it back just a little bit, okay? So we are in consultation with Sarah Sproul, who is our attorney through the firm of Haynesworth, Sinkler and Boyd. She is doing the drafting of the ordinance that would be passed to impose the impact fee if that is the will of council. I have seen a first draft of that ordinance. It is incomplete at this time. It is still in the process of being worked on. But with that said, there's a few things that I think probably should be referenced. The South Carolina Code Section 6-1-960 is the specific area of the developmental impact fee statute that addresses the timetable, and that is what imposes the 30-day public hearing notice requirement. Specifically, it says the notice must be published not less than 30 days before the time of a hearing in at least one newspaper of general circulation in the county. That is also the same statute that spells out the procedure that, quote, the local planning commission shall recommend to the government entity a capital improvement plan which may be adopted by the governmental entity by ordinance. That is what has happened here tonight. The recommendations of the commission are not binding on the government entity which may amend or alter the plan, which was referenced by Mr. Rivers and was contained within the impact study. So, that being said, I think from a legal standpoint, it is important that we distinguish at this point in time what impact fees are for and what they're not for and what they can do and what they cannot do. Impact fees are monies to be collected from developers to be spent on items that are approved within the capital improvement plan. Capital is the key word of capital improvement plan. You cannot spend this money on bodies. You will not get a police officer from impact fees. You will not get firemen from impact fees. You will not get public works employees from impact fees. They can only be spent on capital expenditures. And the law defines what capital expenditures are, and I'm not going to read it to you because it's long and boring. But at the end of the day, you got to spend it on stuff, not people. That's what it comes down to.
And let me ask a question,
Okay.
because I found this in some of my research.
Yeah.
You can also not pay existing bond payments.
Correct.
It's got to be on new structures directly tied to the new growth.
It is a capital improvement plan. So, The work that was done, for instance, at the sewer plant, as is my understanding and in my conversations with Sarah and reading the statute, the improvements of which we have bonded indebtedness at the sewer plant cannot be paid for through the monies collected from the impact fee. Okay?
That was my question.
It is only going to be items of which that council and the planning commission, through the approval of the capital improvement plan, have said, all right, these are the specific things that we want to spend this money on. We want to spend this money on Parks and Rec. We want to spend it on fire. We want to spend it on police. But again, stuff, not people. Okay? That's important. That is extremely, critically important to understanding this. So when we talk about development, and we talk about growth, and we talk about the fact that you will not be able to provide the same services at the same level, you can buy the stuff, but you can't buy the people. You're going to have to pay for staffing through other means, i.e. the general fund, which the general fund's source of income is regular ad valorem property taxes. Okay? Cut and dry. That is clear cut in the law. There is no discussion about it. Okay? Now, with that said, I know what everybody is here tonight because they've heard that there is an alternative that could be considered to impact fees. So I feel like I might as well go ahead and address the legality of that. There's no point in beating around the bush about it. Section 6-1-1050 says that a fee payor and developer may enter into an agreement with a government entity, including an agreement pursuant to the Development Agreement Act, for payments instead of impact fees. That agreement may provide for construction or installation of system improvements by the fee payor or developer, and then it goes on from there. Here's what that means in layman's terms. Council has the ability to negotiate an alternative payment schedule to the impact fees. The impact fee payment schedule is going to be every time you apply for a building permit, the developer would have to remit that sum of money, whatever that sum of money is that council imposes, if that is council's will to impose. Okay? And so, if a development, and I'm not talking about a particular development, I'm talking about all developments. If there is a housing development that comes to the town of Pageland, and it has hundreds of homes, you're going to collect that impact fee over an extended period of time. They're not going to pay 100 impact fees on the day that they break ground. They're going to pay for those impact fees as the building permits are applied for. Okay? So this is a collection process that is going to be ongoing for many, many years. So why does the legislature allow council to have the flexibility to be able to negotiate alternative payments? Because in some circumstances, it would be better, and I'm not saying it's better here, I'm just explaining the statute and why it exists. In some circumstances, perhaps it would be better for the government entity to negotiate a large upfront lump sum payment that instead of having payments stretched over however long it takes to develop the subdivision, be it 2, 3, 5 years, maybe you negotiate to get a lump sum up front. That statute also allows for the negotiation of the developer or fee payor to build facilities in kind for the fees. Somebody referenced a fire department. That is allowable under the statute. If in the capital improvement plan there were parks and rec improvements, a developer could say, I'd like to build the park and rec improvement instead of cutting the town a check. All of those things are contemplated and allowable under state law. Whether that is right for this community or not is a decision for you to make. But I'm just telling you what is enshrined within our state statutes. Okay? So, as it relates to the negotiation of alternatives, that is what the law allows. Now, is there anything I can address some more if there's anything that anybody's got specific questions about?
I do have a question. So impact fees. I came across something, is there a specific time frame?
10 years. So if you institute an impact fee, the impact fee study will have to be reviewed at year 5. So the Planning Commission at year 5 would have to look at, did the impact fee study that was done at the beginning of this, are we still working under that the way that it should be working? Has the development potential of the community changed in the 5 years since the imposition of the impact fee? So you get a review at year 5, and the impact fee is going to end at year 10, and you have to start over again. You can't update the impact fee study at that point. You start from scratch.
Okay, so that's the study. So
That's the study and the imposition of the fee.
okay, so basically, we have 10 years to spend those funds?
No, you do not have 10 years to spend those funds.
I think you have 3 years to spend this.
You have 3 years to spend those funds. So, monies that are collected under the impact fee must be spent within 3 years of collection.
Okay.
Failure to spend those monies within 3 years of collection
Reimbursed.
means they must be reimbursed to the payor. With interest, by the way.
Yep.
With interest. Now, there's one other thing that I want to make sure, because I had to have a long discussion with Sarah to make sure that I understood this properly. And I believe Mr. Rivers touched on this in his presentation, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. Council has received a impact fee recommendation and a capital improvement plan. Okay? Now, if council elects to go with the capital improvement plan as written, then my understanding is that capital improvement plan contemplates the town council imposing the full maximum impact fee that was outlined in the study. Failure to impose the full maximum impact fee that is outlined in the study would mean that you have underfunded the capital improvement plan if it is adopted as written. If you underfund the capital improvement plan, you are required by law to make up the difference. And you will have to make that difference up through the general fund, which is funded largely through ad valorem real estate taxes. So, if you adopt the capital improvement plan as given to you, and you don't adopt the maximum impact fee as has been given to you, you are creating a deficit in the capital improvement fund. Now, let me add one more thing. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. Now,
We're gonna be lawyers when we leave here.
I asked the question, well, what happens if the expected development does not come? And the simple answer to that question is that if the development doesn't come, you are not required to make up the difference in that scenario. If the collected impact fees is less than what is required by the capital improvement plan, you can spend less. But one of the other interesting things about the impact fee study and the capital improvement plan is it is very detailed and categorized. There's a category for fire, there's a category for police, there's a category for parks and rec. If the town of Pageland collects 50%, this is a made-up number, my hypothetical. If the town of Pageland collects 50% less impact fees than what was expected, you can only do 50% of what was done or what was proposed in the capital improvement plan without you having to kick in some fashion or form via another source of money. But what you cannot do is, you cannot make adjustments between categories. So, for instance, if some development comes, but not all the development that is anticipated by the plan comes, and you see as a town council that, hey, our Parks and Rec needs aren't nearly as pressing as our police and fire needs, you cannot shift the Park and Rec money to fire and police. When it's collected, it has to be allocated according to the capital improvement plan. There is no shifting among categories. That's something that's important going forward.
But the question is, if they go with an alternative situation, is it the will of council how that money is spent? Or is it designated by the state also if they go with an alternative plan? Or does that go into the general fund and they get to decide how it's spent?
I'm of the opinion that if there is an alternative payment schedule, or if there is an alternative amount that is negotiated from a fee payer or developer, that money still gets deposited into the same account. Because this is one other thing that needs to be outlined, and maybe I should have started here. You don't reach the point of negotiating an alternative unless you've imposed the impact fee to start with. So you can have these negotiations, and you can receive information from fee payors who maybe want to negotiate an alternative. But at the end of the day, it's an alternative. And in order to have an alternative, you got to have the primary. And the primary is the imposition of the impact fee, however the will of council is. And then you can negotiate an alternative payment under 1050.
Question I have is, we're going back to the alternative that's defined in state law for impact fees as it relates to water and sewer. But right now we've already said that water and sewer, what we have out here on close to South Main, close to M's house, we can't use any of these impact fees right now to go toward that. But there is a statute that we may use, and I'll let you go ahead and.
So within the impact fee statute is section 6-1-1080, which basically says the rules are different for water and wastewater. You gotta follow these rules for police, fire, and Parks and Rec, and anything else that you've imposed, but they're gonna put a different requirement on water and wastewater. Now, what's the logic behind that? Well, first and foremost, with a 3-year length of time that you have to spend the money, you won't get a water and wastewater project engineered and permitted by the Corps of Engineers and the EPA in 3 years. It's not possible. So there are some different rules for the water and wastewater money. To the point that you're getting at, Mayor, and some people would say that this is semantics, but there are other areas enshrined within the state laws that would allow you to impose what could be termed as a service, a connection, or a capacity fee for water and wastewater connections. And it could be the exact same fee that's proposed under the impact fee thing. But if it's passed under a different area of the state statute, that state statute may provide greater flexibility in the ability of those funds to be used for many different things, including to service existing debt. So again, there's an alternative there because of water and sewer. There's not an alternative for police, fire, Parks and Rec.
So why is there a contractual meeting in executive session if we don't have impact fees? That sounds like they're before the horse. Yeah. I don't think they should be making any offers until we have an impact fee, because they can't propose an alternative if we don't have an impact fee. So I don't know why they're here.
Well, I hate to respond to you because that's not
I
under the
understand.
rules of procedure, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway because I think it needs to be
Go
said.
ahead.
I had that discussion today with Sarah Spruill from Hainsworth, Sinclair, and Boyd. We are both of the opinion that an alternative, at the juncture that we're at, the public hearing has already been put out there. The train may not have left the station, but it's boarding time. And at this point in time, she nor I believe that there is anything inappropriate about listening to proposals for in lieu. And that's what we're talking about here today, a contractual proposal in lieu under 6-1-1050. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with listening to that. Because you can't make the contractual arrangement today anyway because you haven't imposed the impact fee yet. But you can listen. You can accept a proposal.
I have a question for clarity. So I have a document that shows all 46 counties, and there's a column for impact fees and a column for negotiated development exactions. And most counties have either or. There are 4 that have both. But from what I heard you say, you can't have the negotiated development exactions unless you have the impact fee.
I'm not familiar with this, so I'm not with negotiated development extractions. Exactions. No, it's not a
Is it a different thing?
That's something different.
Okay.
6-10-1050 gives the governing body the ability to negotiate directly with developers and fee payors, that term is directly from the statute, for alternatives to the payment of the impact fee. I don't think that's the same thing as negotiated development extractions.
Okay. That was my question, because out of the 46 counties in South Carolina, 11 do impact fees, 15 do the negotiated development exactions, and between the 11 and 15, 4 do both. So I was just trying to understand the difference.
And that's the counties. Bear in mind, impact fees are available to counties, cities, school districts, and special purpose
Yeah,
districts.
City of Charleston is one that does both.
But school districts can't go out there and request the money. It can't be impact fee. They can't request an impact fee direct. They have to go through a municipality, correct?
I've never researched that because that's not my problem.
Yeah. I think that was something that was.
I've got all the problems here that I need.
Got it. Got it.
I have a question, so let me just make sure I understand this, Adam. So you're saying that the impact fees can only be used for capital improvement?
Yes.
So but what we're saying is if we need additional fire or additional law enforcement
Bodies, you mean?
bodies, we're gonna see a rise in taxes, so you're gonna tax individuals anyway.
Well,
Is that what I hear you say?
well, don't forget, this new people are paying taxes too. So you got
That's
those
what I'm
new
saying.
people moving in paying taxes. So
supply
so
and
you,
demand, if you have more people paying taxes, if I'm understanding that you can't use these expenditures for only capital.
Mhm.
So we're gonna see a rise in taxes, more people could potentially offset that by paying additional taxes. I'm understanding that?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially.
Potentially, yes. And this goes back to the very, very beginning of when I said, what are impact fees for and what are they not for? Impact fees are not for stopping growth. They are not for stopping development. They are not designed to be a mechanism for a community to say, we don't want you here, go somewhere else. They are a mechanism for which the community to get what it needs in order to be prepared for growth.
and I think to go back to what David said, they're voluntary. The developer doesn't wanna pay them, they don't have to develop.
Correct,
So,
yeah.
It's
But,
voluntary.
this is,
But,
but we keep using the term developer. That's not the term that I'm using. I'm using the term developer or fee payor. That is the term used in the statute. That is everyone. If you decide to build a new home, it does not matter whether you are building $100,000 home or you're building a $500,000 home. You're going to pay the same impact fee as everybody else. This is an across the board thing. And this is for the placement of mobile and manufactured homes. This is for the construction of stick-built homes. This is everything. So again, I don't like to call it the developer. No, it's the developer or fee payor. And the fee payor is every Tom, Dick, and Harry that decides that they are going to locate in this town and build new construction.
Commercial as well?
Commercial and industrial under the plan as has been proposed by the Planning Commission.
Is that clause where if they do any low-income housing, that eliminates the right to do impact fees?
So there is a section of the state law that says that the town has to look at and provide for alternatives to the impact fee if a developer comes to the community and wants to build a development that meets the state criteria for low-income housing. Now, it doesn't exempt them from the impact fee, but it says that the town has to be more flexible with them and look at alternatives, including, but not limited to, the town, excuse me, there's no other way to say this, the town just eating it. That's the easiest way to describe it. So.
And one question I thought of is, how does impact fees impact appraisal fees of homes?
Well, okay, first and foremost, I am not a real estate appraiser, but I was raised by one. So, so I do not, it's kind of like I spent last night in a Holiday Inn, you know, the old commercial. But anyway, as I understand it, if there is new construction going on today, and the appraiser walks in to appraise that new construction property, there's not going to be any discussion of impact fees, okay? But if in a month from now, the town of Paisley imposes an impact fee, and that developer raises the price of the exact same house by the amount of money that they have to pay in the impact fee, okay? So if it was a $250,000 house, and a month from now after the impact fee, it is a $261,000 house. The appraiser has the latitude and the ability to make the proper notations in the appraisal to justify why this home might in fact have to be priced higher than a recent comparable sale, because that comparable sale did not reflect the imposition of impact fees, whereas that is now on the table. So a good appraiser should be able to outline that and justify that.
and I do think that's important to note,
Yes.
because it's gonna get passed to the buyers. I mean, if you're smart.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna be the one to say it. It's too cold in here. Me and Kim are about to freeze to death.
I'm all fired up. I'm doing great.
I'm over here shivering.
About to buy it.
Fuego.
I'm sorry.
I'm over here. I've been drinking this bottle of water the whole time.
So Shane, did you go over and kind of cover the timeline from here forward, the way everything's planned?
So the plan from here forward is to, on March 7th, to have first reading of the impact fee ordinance. And then from there, we will have the public hearing on March the 14th. And I'll touch base with Adam to make sure, but if we're good, then we may have the second reading on March 14th. If we need to push it out another week, then we may have to do that. But we'll at least have first reading and the second, and the public hearing. First reading being on March 7th, and then public hearing on March the 14th.
And it only requires,
potentially the second reading on March 14th as well.
and it's only requires 2 readings?
It only
Only
requires-
two
Only
readings.
2, yeah.
2 readings, but 30 days instead of 15 or 10.
Adam, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly a while ago. If we decide to go the impact fee route, we've already got an impact fee already in place. If we don't use that max number that's there, the town has to make up that money. If we do just like you said, 50%, that money's got to be made up somewhere along the line.
If you adopt the capital improvement plan, which has a residential impact fee of approximately $11,000, and you come in and you say, I can't swallow $11,000, but I can swallow some other lesser number, you as a body are going to have to figure out, how do you make up the difference? The general fund, which is funded largely through ad valorem real estate taxes.
All right. Any other questions, council?
I think I've used up my allotment.
Thank you, Adam. That was very informational.
Thank you for that. Anything else you need to add, Adam?
Oh, one more thing, for the
I would
public hearing.
prefer not to.
For the public hearing, can we kind of have a little summary document that says these are
Oh,
what
yeah.
fees can be used?
Please don't
I
make
think
me
that
do
would
it.
be helpful.
Well, by then you should have the actual capital improvement
Yeah.
plans from the department heads on, hey, this is what we need to do within the constraints of the capital improvement plan within state law, what you can spend the money on.
And
Fire
the timeframe.
facilities and fire apparatus, so Chief Rivers is gonna say, hey, you need to buy a fire truck, and you need to add on to the building here. So, within that, within the capital improvement plan that's already in here, it already says, this is the square footage you occupy now, and in 10 years, based on the growth projection, this is what it should be, which is roughly double. Same for the police departments. 6,000 square feet, it should be roughly 13,000 square feet. Now, what they do with that additional 6,000 square feet is build another Sally Port, extend that, more office space, get rid of, they can't go in and renovate. It has to be new square
It
footage.
has to be new, yeah. And so if we only collect 50% of the, say, proposed growth, then you'd have to cut that by 50%.
Yes.
You can't shift from.
Can't shift,
Right.
but you reduce, it's incremental.
Mhm.
So it's planned in there on fire apparatus. We have 5 now, and in 10 years, the fleet should be at 10. So you can't buy half a fire truck. Yet, in 2 years, we should have, Chief, remember what the number was?
More.
Well, not in 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
So fire apparatus,
That's about 2 years.
fire apparatus, in 2022, we have 5. In 2023, we should have 5.5. In 2024, we should be at 6. In 2025, 6.5. 2026 at 7. Now, that's not replacing what we have. That's the
And it would have
fleet.
to be
The
adding.
fleet. We're gonna have to replace fire trucks,
Mhm.
but our fleet size is gonna have to go up to meet the demand.
But that's directly correlated with the growth. So the
Yes.
growth, it's all of a sudden we got
That's what
somebody
I'm
that
saying.
pulls out, somebody says, all
Somebody pulls out,
right,
then you-
but what do you do, but if you, I guess, I know there's a need for a fire engine, I'm told now too. So
Yeah.
if we go out and say, all right, let's go ahead and get a bond on this next year, and all of a sudden,
A bond on the impact fee?
yes, because I think we discussed something else.
Let me address that.
Yeah, go ahead and you address that.
So,
Hang on fire.
you surprisingly enough, you can take bonded indebtedness secured by an impact fee. Okay? So you can borrow, if you're willing to find a lender who'll do it. I don't know how you're going to meet underwriting guidelines, but there is no prohibition in state law for a town to take bonded indebtedness on impact fees. Now, I'm going to quit being a lawyer for just a minute, and I'm going to tell you that as an individual, that sounds to me like about the stupidest thing you could do. Because if you create a bonded indebtedness associated with that impact fee, the expected impact fee, and that impact fee doesn't come, you got a major problem. So again, this is one of those scenarios where, going back to why does statute 1050 exist that allows you to negotiate alternatives to payment? Because you don't want to spend money that you don't have yet. And even though you have the ability to borrow and bond, it seems that would be foolhardy. So therefore, if council felt it was in your best interest to take a lump sum or an alternative payment schedule, that is available to you in state law.
And the reason why I say I had about at least two individuals ask me, why can't you just go ahead and take out a loan on this? And I was like, I don't know that we can. I said, it sounds fiscally irresponsible to do such, not knowing that,
Bank of America ain't gonna do it.
yeah, I can't, yeah.
Put that out there.
And so that's why I asked the question to Adam, so. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Anything else that you need to add?
No,
All right, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is 1 hour later.
This
All
was
right.
good though.
Yes. Airport, through the fence agreement, Mr. Sly.
All right, so about this time last year, y'all asked us to put the through the fence agreement into to the airport committee, and we done so. And they sent it back and said, well, we need y'all to come up with a fee, and I said, no, that's what they sent it back to you guys for. So, they met, last month. The first meeting they didn't have a forum, second meeting they did, so they actually met last month, and they voted for the through the fence agreement to charge a $1 yearly fee for the through the fence agreement. Since then, I've been on a phone conference with the FAA, and the FAA says that's not a valid fee. The FAA says that fee needs to be based on a fair market value. And these are properties that are not owned by the town, but are inside of the secure area of the fence in at the airport. So, therefore, I brought it back to you today because that's what the airport commission gave me. But again, last week I had a phone conference with the FAA that says that's not a valid fee.
So is it your recommendation to send it back to the
We got
airport?
to send it back to the airport committee.
Okay. You need us to
Yeah, formally send
Okay.
it back.
need them, before we move further, any questions, comments regarding this through the fence agreement?
So, it's paid, who is the fee paid by? The people that live inside
The
the,
people who own hangars inside of the airport secure area.
that are not owned
Because
by the
they
airport?
were
Okay.
fenced into the secured area whenever they were coming through with the fencing. I
Gotcha.
think they had to pay for their own fencing around it, but part of that was the airport, or the FAA wanted them to be to pay a through the fence agreement. And that fee is supposed to be used to help the airport become more self-sustaining without, being supplemented by the town on projects and stuff that needs to go on out there.
How much is the average fee per check, you know?
I don't know. They said put it on fair market value. So, I mean, we're gonna have to research that.
Any questions, comments? If not, I need a motion to refer the through the fence agreement back to the airport committee per the recommendation of the FAA. Got a motion?
Second.
Second from Mr. Mr. Hancock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is airport tie-down fees.
All right, the airport tie-down fees, what the airport committee recommended was, $25 for a single make. Can you explain the single and the double for me, cause I don't know the,
Very simple, single engine, have one engine.
okay, so it's based on the engine, okay. So it's, $25 for a single engine, $35 for a twin engine. They were all in favor of that, and then also along with that, they took the second motion as far as the tie-down fees. $5 a day, for visiting planes, or waive it with purchase of 15 gallons or more of fuel. And that, they were saying most places, that's kinda on the honor system, but we would put signage out that said that.
So that's 25 single engine, 35 for twin, and $5 per plane if they're visiting, or it can be waived. They buy how much fuel?
Per day.
15 gallons. And that is, yes, $5 per day, and it's waived if they buy 15 gallons fuel, was their recommendation.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Here now, need a motion to approve the tie-down fee structure that was proposed by the airport committee.
Motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Anyone in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is the business improvement grant.
All right, there's a copy of the business improvement grant in your packet. The business improvement grant is pretty much the same as what it was previous year. The dates have changed, pretty much all there is to it. Application available, if y'all approve it tonight, it will be available tomorrow morning. Actually, I'll probably put it on the website before I leave tonight. The application would be due by March the 17th. Gives them a little over a month. The grants, plan to be awarded on April the 4th, and then work completion by September the 1st. Everything's about a month ahead of what it was last year, because we're about a month ahead on getting this out than where we were last year.
Okay. Any questions, comments from council?
Do we have a total?
$10,000, that's what was in the budget.
Do we have the rollover of the $7,000?
No, we didn't roll over last year's, we didn't do that in the budget.
Any questions, comments from council? Here now, need a motion to approve, go ahead and issue the business improvement grant as requested. Got a motion?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Anyone in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is the chamber community events. Mr. Sly.
All right, the chamber community events, this is two-part. One, we need to, give the chamber, hours last year during February the 15th, council meeting of 2022. We, allotted them 40 hours for the year. We haven't, and it was for the remainder of the year. We haven't done that for this year. I know they've got their chamber banquet coming up, so we haven't allotted them any hours for this year. I'm proposing that we do them much like we did on previous year. They get 40 hours and, they're non-transferable as if been previously.
Is there a possibility we can get away from hours and just say be specific?
Yeah, I mean,
Be specific to, like it
in
must be.
the words of Adam, that is the will of council.
Yeah, well, I just. Does council want to stay with the 40 hours and just move forward, or would you rather be specific to what it can be used for? Define that.
Like events, like number of
Yeah.
events
No,
versus
no, I'm
number
just
of
saying
hours.
like specific, like,
Something like a watermelon festival.
yeah, Watermelon Festival, you could use it for job fairs, you can use it for, chamber dinner, that type of stuff. Be specific to that rather than just laying it wide open and say you got your 40 hours, you can go however you want to, but you can't transfer any other events there. Either way's Either way?
Either way, it's fine.
If you, we can stick with it 40 hours for right now.
Okay.
So you wanna go ahead and just do it as two separate motions?
Do that one as a motion, then we got more to talk about. when we-
Okay.
we change
Need a
it.
motion to authorize the chamber to utilize the, community center for 40 hours for the remainder part of this year, 2023. Motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next, what's the other item you had with that?
The other item with that is, Tim, you've got some events coming up that you wanted to propose to council.
Real quick. One of the things that we're doing, is Monroe does it and other towns are doing it, where they're bringing in like music and food trucks once a month. It's very beneficial to the downtown area. It's a great economic development tool for us to have amenities and events in our downtown area. Monroe does, I think, first Mondays or first Fridays, I forget what it is they do up there. We would like through the months of April, May, and June to do music in Moore Park with no more than 3 food trucks. The pricing for the bands and everything that we would need, we'd like to partner with the town. We'd like this to not necessarily just be a Chamber of Commerce presents. We would like it to be double branded and logoed as, you know, the town of Pageland and the Chamber of Commerce presents third Fridays in Moore Park. And what that would do is that would give us to be able to rent the sound, hire the bands, and most bands are in the $700 range, and have 3 food trucks. So we would like to propose out of hospitality tax that the chamber pays $500 and the town pays $500 and have a budget of $1,000 per event. It'd be 3 events. It would bring a lot of people in the downtown. You've talked about it. We've always wanted something monthly down there, and here's our chance to finally. We put out a request for bands for the festival. We received over 75 requests, so we had to pick 4 for the festival, but we can look at the rest of the bands and, you know, go with that to bring music to downtown, show off our town, show off Moore Park, and let people kind of see what's going on down there. But I'd like to do it as a co-branding. I'd work with Shane, bring him the quotes from the band, and then we just basically split the bill down the middle. Some bands may be 500, some may be 800 or 900. I'm just asking for leeway of up to $500 from the town per event. It may be 300 one month, it may be, you know, 475 the next month. We don't know. But I'm asking for the budget of $500, and what we'll do is the chamber will write half a check to the band, the town can write half a check to the band, or the town can write a check. I don't care how we do it. I just don't want to get into a problem where we're trying to figure out who's going to pay. So, because we went down that road once before. So, if it's fine, if you guys want to do a $500 sponsorship for each of the events, that would work also, and then we will just do the contract with the bands.
So how would the food trucks have to pay the normal
Hospitality
licensing and
tax.
taxes like they
They
normally
will
would?
have to
Okay.
have, like we do with the festival, it won't be like the festival. If they come to the third Saturday, they must have at least a peddler's license or the whatever it is,
Food truck license.
Yeah,
food truck license.
Okay, that was my question.
So they will have to have that. Unfortunately, food trucks aren't allowed in the downtown area, so we are going to be asking for you to waive that so we can have the 3 food trucks, and it'll be no more than 3 food trucks per event. It's not going to be like a whole bunch of them down there like a food truck fair. It'll be just food trucks parked up there for, you know, for that night.
How are those 3 selected?
We'll go with, what we usually do is we go local first. I kind of do it from the center of Pageland out. You know, if there's someone in Pageland who has that type of food truck, we go with a local citizen. And then we branch out. If we find someone in Jefferson or Chesterfield, you know, we try to go that route. We try not to bring in from far away. If we have local, we try to keep it local. So, but we try to go a selection of a dessert truck type, you know, the funnel cakes, this, that, and the other. And then we try to go with either a barbecue or a soul food. We try to have 3 totally separate types of food but we try to stay as local as possible.
When you need out, when
Well,
Well,
it's on the agenda.
We got to
Can
do in
we
a budget, I don't know, do we have budget for this?
I know there's money in the, community civic fund, which is in the general fund, that would cover the 1,500 that he's asking for. But there's possibly money in hospitality as well. I would have to look at hospitality to come along.
Because we need to start getting contracts, because April will be here before you know it, we need to get the bands booked.
Monroe's had a lot of success with it.
Ooh. And Hartsville has downtown, I think theirs is on College Street, they do College Street, Florence does it, and actually, Sherrall has started doing First Fridays, and, that. So I just think it's something to bring downtown, I think it'd be good for.
I was gonna say you could coordinate with the downtown businesses and make sure
Yes,
they could do specials or whatever.
Yes.
yes.
So the question, comments from council?
The Wandering Bean would be good, but I know that's,
I don't know if a coffee shop would be good for it
I know.
during the
In
summer, but I do
summer.
love Wandering Bean, gosh knows. As long as
you may
I,
wanna think about that for Christmas.
as long as we get, the egg rolls, you know, the soul egg rolls, I'm good to go. So, community barbecue. So, that's where we're at, gentlemen, ladies.
So you think do we have $1,500 that we could spare, that we can allocate for this?
Yeah, there's 4,000 in there, I think.
Questions? Anything? No further discussion? Okay. So I need a motion to allocate $1,500 for the music at Moore Park, with the chamber.
Motion.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? You know, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Christmas decorations, Mr. Sly.
All right, I got a quote today for Tim, before you get too far. Tim, before you get too far, Christmas decorations. I know you gave me, 9,
Get that chair on.
9 pole mounts and 4, over the glove bridges. Does that conclude what we need in downtown?
To complete the downtown area from the police station, actually the Blakeney, down even to Bojangles, and to finish off Maple and finish off Pearl, that will complete it. And then that is the last of the 3-year purchase that we originally designed to completely redo the downtown, all in matching wreaths. After this, the remainder of the funds and next year's allocation will go to the beautification committee, because they want to do even more, but this was from the original 3-year plan to make downtown match.
So I got that price today is, the grand total is $7,999.34, and if we use a credit card, they add another $279 on
Give me that, how much that again,
$7,999.34.
And they're on sale. We're not buying them in September.
Right, that is the sale price. The original price was $707 each, and, for the side mounts, and they're $509 each on sale. The original price of the over the globe was $738, we're buying them at $531.
I love a bargain.
And what's our budget for this?
14,000.
It's been
Can,
half.
can we,
Sound right, Tim?
Yeah, we're about, this is half of it. This would take half of the budget.
I don't wanna say, I wanna say have some go through Petersburg as well.
what happened?
Yeah, cause I think we were talking at one time about doing
Okay,
Petersburg.
that's this, and Patty, that's the beautification committee. This purchase here is just to complete the downtown, because the beautification committee is actually in charge of the Christmas decorations.
I'd almost say go ahead and move forward with the same decorations, go ahead and move down.
Since we don't have globes there, we could probably see if they could,
And the
add
side
some
mounts.
more side mounts.
I said we go ahead and run all the way up into Petersburg to at least the split.
At least the split.
Yeah.
Arnold Street.
I
Yeah.
would like to, if we're gonna do that on the Christmas decoration budget, say that I don't go any more than,
Then authorize
probably
the
about
budget.
11,000. That gives me room for wiggle at Christmas time and room for written lifts.
And what we need to do for the Petersburg installation is we need to identify the poles and make sure that there's power, because we will have to have power run to the posts, because Petersburg, the poles on Petersburg do not have the boxes, so we need to add that into it. But like I said, I didn't want to overstep the beautification committee, because like I said, we had a 3-year plan. Then after the 3-year plan was over for the downtown, the beautification committee was gonna take over and do Petersburg and the bypass.
Well, I say
And-
we go ahead and move forward with the Petersburg, and if you got, if
You
That's
wanna
the
see if I
bypass,
can add maybe 6 more wreaths to that at $500 a piece,
I
it's
say
gonna be about
whatever's,
$2 grand.
I say
Or
whatever's
Whatever we
needed,
can get
yeah,
on sale
yeah.
Yeah,
while it's on sale.
and use the budget, yeah.
But if we're gonna go ahead and do the Elm Street, the Petersburg lighting section, then we need to go ahead and do the block from the police department to Elm Street. We don't need to have all the wreaths downtown, then have one block without them, and then turn on to Elm Street,
Just see
go
how-
down. We
see
need
how
to
many
make
lights you
sure.
have there.
That I mean, to stay within budget, I mean, if I order 6 more side mount wreaths, then I'm at max where I want the budget to be.
And we can
So
do
that I've
that.
got some money to hold on to for right at Christmas.
And one other thing that I think that I've talked to Mr. Hutto and Mr. Baker about is talking with the church, this building there in the middle, about possibly putting running power there to put a Christmas tree in the
The
Petersburg
big one,
community.
that's sitting in storage.
We've got one that we can put over there.
We talked about that
It's
last year.
good.
Yeah,
But I
they-
think-
DOT won't let us put it in the
They won't let us
deed
put,
itself.
they won't let us put it in the island, but they'll put it behind it.
But the church, if they'll let us,
Yes.
because I have talked to DOT
If,
about that.
if we have money that we can do that, then if we can try to make that happen.
But I think 6 for Petersburg, if we go down there and stagger them, one on this side, go a half a block, this side, go half a block on this side, I think we can get all the way to the triangle. I think without a doubt we
And
can
then
get that.
maybe next year pick up another.
Right.
6 or 10 to finish off.
Well, I'm gonna leave that up to the beautification committee. My concern was just,
So
What I was
basically what
in
you're
charge
looking for is just a authorization to go, just to expand the Christmas decorations as budgeting. Go ahead and I'll give you authorize you to go ahead and purchase the necessary lights to run all the way down to 207, and then 207 in Petersburg, and then Maple Street. That's the ones we need, right?
We're dividing in Arnold Street and 207.
Yeah, all the way up,
Going to
right,
school,
that's right, that's right,
In that part there, it belongs to the state.
that's right. Go ahead and run it up to there. If we have any money
And then
left, we
that
can see about
center
running
there,
it.
front
We
of
get
the
power up
church
there to the,
We
so.
would love to have
That's
Christmas
gonna be
I
a
tree
have
hard,
lights.
so we're gonna have to get with Nick Henry.
is that,
on
and
power.
you said there's 14,000 in the account of budget?
14,000 total.
but we have to
I'm
have save
sure
money
that-
for the
I'm
lift.
sure that we've already used, have we gotten the bill on the lift from January yet?
I don't think we have.
Normally that's about 1,000, so we've already probably expended 1,000 of that. Cause typically that lift costs us $1,000 to rent. And so we'll need it again in November for another $1,000. So that pushes us to 12 right there.
Okay. So any other questions, comments from council? So I guess the way I need to structure this is need to authorize town administrator to order Christmas decorations up to $11,000. Up to $11,000 to run lights, for the remainder of, from Maple Street down, no, Oak Street down to 207, and then 207 up to Arnold Street. And then, of course, the 100 block of Maple Street. I need a motion to authorize him to purchase those Christmas lights.
Motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. So next is change order number 3 for the SRF project. Mr. Sly?
All right, the SRF project, which is this, pipe bursting deal, they've, some work that's already been done, they said there's an additional $5,600. I've asked the engineer to make sure on the contingency. He has not been clear with me on the contingency as of right yet. He was supposed to check into it, and yesterday kinda got away from me, so didn't have a
Switched
chance
in.
to call and check back up with him on that yesterday or today. But he's thinking there's enough in contingency for that, but, he was supposed to check, and I hadn't talked to him.
So we need to table this for right now until we can make a determination of contingency.
if we table it, I need to have another meeting or no later than next week, because they're trying to move forward with this,
We can do it this way, we can say contingent upon having contingent funds. Does that sound good, Adam?
That's exactly what I was
that
thinking.
works for me.
Contingent on
A
having
contingency of the contingency.
That's right.
Yes.
Hey, it works. Do you have a problem with just doing it that way?
That works for me, I'll check with him, if there's not contingent funds, then we'll be meeting again next week to figure out how we're gonna handle this.
But you just need authorization to, to approve change order 3 for the SRF project in the amount of $5,600 contingent that there's funds available, to cover it in contingency. Okay. Any questions, comments? So I need a motion from council to approve change order number 3 for the SRF grant in the amount of $5,600. Contingent that there are funds left in contingency to cover those funds for the change order. So I need a motion for change order 3. Motion? Second from Mr. Hancock. Any further discussion? If you're in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is town policy change, new employee time off resolution. Mr. Sly.
So the department heads, have gotten to where they meet on a weekly basis. And one of the things that they've come up with is they have a problem with some of the new employees taking time off in that first 90 days. And, can't properly evaluate and train those employees, during that time frame. And I'd like to read a resolution, and I asked the council after I read it if you agree with it, that you take a vote on it at that time. So I'll read the resolution. A resolution to require all newly hired employees to work for 90 days before taking paid time off for sick leave, vacation leave, floating holiday, or personal day. This is not inclusive of normal holidays where town functions are typically closed. Whereas new employees are needed in their first 90 days of employment to learn how to efficiently perform their job duties and be evaluated on their progression. Whereas the Page Town Administrator and department heads have reviewed the paid time off policies of the town employees and have seen a need to update the current policy. Whereas the Page Town Administrator and department heads have determined that to best train and evaluate new employees is to have the employee at work. Be it further resolved that the Page Town Council has determined that a newly hired employee should be employed a minimum of 90 days for proper training and evaluation before taking time off. And I ask that y'all take that into consideration.
Any questions, comments from council?
What's the earn rate now?
So for vacation, it is 4 hours per month. Sick time is 8 hours per month. And also, you have a personal floating holiday and a personal day.
What happens to that employee if he has to be out, Shane?
That, right now, I've talked with the department heads and I said, hey, look, if this is a discretionary item, I want y'all to come to me and say, hey, this employee is, they're legitimately sick. There's something legitimately wrong here. I think they need to be paid at that time. We would do that on a one-on-one basis based on their history and the validation of their sickness or their need to be out.
Who validates that sickness?
I think it would be more in the department head, because they're the ones that have to make sure that their department's covered and their employees are working. And their job gets done.
If they meet their qualification in 90 days, a new worker and training, and they want to take a day off?
Currently, the way it currently is a week from now, if you started today, a week from now, if you want to take a day off and you've accumulated some time, you can take a day off. Just because you want to take a day off. And that's what we're trying to prevent. somebody's legitimately sick, we need to evaluate that and be able to provide for the employee. But if they've just earned, their first couple of hours, and as soon as they earn their first couple of hours on their check and they see it there, they decide to take a day off, that's where we end up with a problem, because we have some that are coming to work and as soon as they earn it, they burn it.
So in a
Earn
week,
and burn.
in a month, you earn how much time?
In a month, you have 8 hours of sick time and 4 hours of vacation, so that puts you at 12 hours in the first month of working. Plus your floating holiday and, your personal day.
That's pretty generous.
Any more questions, comments from council?
Yeah, let's, our current policy is what now?
Our current policy is, once they approve, they can start taking time off. Hey, actually, they can take time off before they approve,
Just gonna get paid for it.
they don't mean they're gonna get paid for it.
Right. I have issues with the sickness bill, which of our employees are at the level to say this guy's sick or not, or this lady's sick or not.
What if they have COVID?
Have issues with it. Again, current policy seems to be working fairly decent, and it's not so much the voluntary, I wanna be out Friday, it's the sickness part of this that concerns me.
Well, it's not unusual for new employees like at the bank. We don't get vacation for a year. We get sick time, but we don't get vacation, so.
But you're not even offering any type of
They'll still be accumulating time. They'll still accumulate time during that time. They just won't be able to use it, is what I'm.
So you can accumulate your time, but you can't take it. Is that what I hear?
Right.
For 90 days.
Well, that needs to be cut off somewhere. You need to find out if they really wanna earn
Right.
what they're getting, goes. A lot of times now, people come to work looking for time off.
And by no means am I certified to be able to, or qualified to be able to determine if they're truly sick or not. But that also goes into the ability to be able to provide a doctor's note, because we typically, provide them health insurance pretty quickly whenever they start working.
But at some point, somebody has to make a call. That probably gonna stop on your desk.
That's gonna be a multi-purpose, or multi-person conversation.
But if I understand what you said, they earn 8 hours of sick time a month.
Right.
That's one day of being sick. I don't have a problem with them taking a sick day,
I don't either.
but I agree with the vacation.
So the recommendation from the council to send this back to the department heads and have them recraft the section that applies to sick leave.
Yeah, I have some issues with it. What if you had a good employee? What if you hired somebody, a really good employee, 2 months into it, his child got sick?
Well, they're not saying you can't take off, they're saying you don't get paid, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
You can take off if you're
Can you?
sick, but you just don't get paid.
Can you?
Our intent is to try to keep the employee at work as much as possible. We realize stuff happens. Our intent is to have the employee at work so that we can make sure they're trained and properly evaluated on their job performance. Because, we currently have a 6-month probation period, and we're only asking for half of that, or the first 90 days of that to be blocked out on this.
Well, if someone worked 90 days and need to take off,
Then, on the 91st day, if they wanted to take a vacation day on the 91st day, and it was approved by their department head, then they would be paid for it. If you follow this.
that was my question earlier.
I also say something about the personal day, because what if,
So,
like,
the personal day, that personal day is a little bit different. That personal day is a day that you can use that deducts 8 hours of your sick time.
Okay, cause, I mean, you can't help when somebody passes away or,
That's
that's different?
That is different. If,
Okay.
an immediate family member, passes away, we have bereavement leave
Okay.
for
That's
that.
different. We're talking about sickness.
So we want to send it back to the department heads and have them revise the sickness.
But if wherever you leave it, it's gonna have to be some judgment on somebody's part. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody have to make a judgment call, no matter where you send it, still somebody gonna have to make a judgment call. So we may as well deal with it and move on. Of course, it's gonna be a judgment call. So, matter of fact, when you start talking about sickness, we as people, there are degrees of sickness. And some of us get a slight headache, we're not going to work in the morning. And some folks go in, they're just barely able to walk. So there are degrees of how you go in. So you're gonna have to make a judgment call on what somebody tell you or ask you to say that they're sick, then somebody gonna have to make the call. So let's go ahead and accept the
Recommendation.
recommendation and move on.
Y'all fine with that?
And so the sick can be brought to your desk? and-
Yeah, I mean, all of it can be brought to.
Okay.
To my desk, I mean,
It's not a hard, fast decision, this,
right.
gotcha. Okay.
We're asking to be able to change the policy.
Yeah.
From time to time, we have to make exceptions to the policy, and it's not something we like to do, but from time to time, we have to.
So that part you read, that's the change you're asking for?
This is the, change to the policy is what this resolution is asking for.
Okay.
Is there any questions, comments? If not, I need a motion to approve the resolution for the new employee time off as presented by town administrator.
Motion.
Motion? Second. Any further discussion? You all in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is ordinance 476. First Amendment audit policy, first reading. Mr. Sly.
All right, during the First Amendment audits, our county attorney advised that we may wanna look at implementing this policy into town's policies. To limit the access of especially secured areas that need to be secured. And this here is a model policy, put out by the Municipal Association. I've also asked the department heads to review this during one of the department head meetings after I got this from, the town attorney. They have all read over it, they didn't see any complaints with it.
And I'll follow that up. As he states, it is a model policy by the municipal association that they have published, as a resource to towns. It does not prohibit First Amendment auditors from entering public buildings, from filming in lobbies or anything of that nature. What it does is it creates a policy and a standard by which the town can designate certain sensitive areas, such as behind the desk of the town clerk, the administrator's office, the offices of the police chief or of the town shop. Those sensitive areas that may contain sensitive information, that those would be designated as restricted access areas. They're restricted access already. We just now have a policy that spells it out so that if anybody questions their ability to access those areas, we have a policy in place that prohibits that. Those are only for town employees and other individuals that are brought into those on an as-needed basis.
Okay. Any questions, comments from council? If there are none, I need a motion to approve first reading of the First Amendment audit policy, ordinance 476.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? You know, if you raise your right hand, unanimous. Next on the agenda is the water tank maintenance contract. Mr. Sly.
All right, the water tank maintenance contract is running out. It is time for us to renew. I just need y'all to direct me to putting out bids, for the next, for the one water tank maintenance contract. This past one I think was a 10-year contract, so, we need to put out bids for it.
Okay. Questions, comments from council? And this will be for the 2 water tanks that we have, one behind the police department, one behind Old Town Hall. Any questions, comments, council? You now need a motion to authorize town administrator to seek bids for the new water tank maintenance contract. Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Here in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is the PD Coalition requesting funds. Mr. Sly.
All right, PD Coalition has requested, they sent a letter requesting, $5,000 of support from the town. We have made the person who is our victims advocate, which victims advocate funds is what they're referring to here, is what we typically give them. We have made the victims advocate a full-time employee. We've done that, I think, about, February of last year. So they currently in their budget have, I think it's $33,000. Dean's requesting that we consider 2,500 or 3,000, not 5,000. Now that being said, those are victims advocate funds. They must be expended, and he's aware of that. So, and I think we can only retain 10% on victims advocate. So he's aware that how much is in there, and he's asking. We looked at 2,500, 3,000 is what we support them with.
And just a reminder to council, this is some of those funds, I think Mr. Ford has mentioned in the past, either you use them or the state can come by and take it from you, so you lose them.
This is the one that the auditor addresses you about every year during the audit presentation. These monies are not general fund items. They are derived from fines and surcharges associated with court actions, criminal court actions. And if you sit on these funds for too long, the state of South Carolina can demand them. And when I say demand them, I mean like that day. Cut us a check today. So if you don't spend them, you don't get to keep them.
So what amount are you recommending, Mr. Sly?
I'm gonna follow the chief's lead, let y'all choose somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000, because he's the one that has to work on these things. That being said, just to give you a general overview, last year we brought in about $8,600. We extended out about 13,000, plus the 3,000 that we gave them last year. So we spent out 16,000.
So like 2,500 it is.
Right. If we done, some of the conversation that the chief and I had was, we brought in $8,600. If we give them 5,000, we're giving them the lion's share of what we brought in last year.
Is council good with 2,500? With that said, I need a motion to approve a fund allocation of $2,500 to go to PD Coalition out of fiscal year 23 funds. Got a motion?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion? You know, in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is the Town Hall Server Room AC.
So the server room AC has been giving us problems now going on almost a year. It is out of warranty, and that was the first thing that I asked whenever I picked up the phone to call about that server room AC giving us problems. It only came with a 1-year warranty. And I think it's because it's one of those mini split units. I'm asking tonight to take bids, or reach out to some of the local heat and air contractors to take bids on an alternative. I get alarms 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes that the server room is overheated or higher than where it needs to be. You know, server room, there's a server in there. We don't need the temperature over about 75 degrees. Once you're over 75 degrees, you're cooking components, and not doing any good to your server. That unit sometimes kicks out. Reiner's been doing most of the work here. They've been out here multiple times. They're suggesting putting a consulate in the ceiling. Currently we have one of those head units that sits up on the wall. If you actually shut the door too hard, it starts wobbling and goes all. You have to cut it all the way off and completely reset and turn it back on. They're suggesting we put a consulate in the ceiling. They said it's more it's less reactive to the server components in the server room, and it's not on the wall. So if you shut the door too hard, it don't go to wobbling. While I'm doing it, you know, the conversation has been, you know, if we're going to do it and we're already up there, what would be the difference in doing the server room and the outside storage room? We could put papers in there and that type of thing. It's currently not climate controlled, but if we don't, with it not being climate controlled, we can't use it for storage out there currently. And I don't. That's inviting of rodents and bugs and critters, especially with it not being climate controlled in that way.
Okay. Questions, comments from council?
Is there currently a fan in there? Like when the unit kicks off, is there a fan to at least move that air?
So what's in there is a head unit, because it is one of those Mitsubishi split units, and the fan. Whenever I'm getting these alarms in the middle of the night, the fan's running. Whenever I come in, the fan's running, but it's not pushing cold air; it's pushing hot air that is collected and it's come off the server.
And the doors keep closed?
And the door's closed because it's supposed to be self-contained. It's supposed to be handling that room alone.
Any more questions, comments? If there are none, I need a motion to authorize the town administrator to seek bids for the town hall server room AC.
Motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Being all in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Next on the agenda, ordinance 477, annexation of tax map number 031-000-000-020 at Usher, Maynard, and Clark. This is first reading, Mr. Sly.
Of course, you've all got Tim Griffin read this letter to you earlier from Mr. Melton, who owns Titan Stainless, or where owns Titan Stainless, Mr. Melton.
He owns Titan
He
Stainless,
owns
the
the
book
Titan.
company, and now he owns his development.
Okay, and he's the one behind this, piece of property across from Titan Stainless there that he's wanting to develop. The planning commission has heard this, and they, suggested that, it be annexed. He's planning on putting homes and some commercial, development out there.
Questions, comments from council? Hearing none, need a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 477. Motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Get all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next on the agenda is the county comprehensive plan designee, Mr. Sly.
All right, the county comprehensive plan, they're planning on doing something, next week. I think the 13th at 5 p.m. is when they're planning on doing something. For their first kickoff meeting for the county comprehensive plan. We currently do not have a designee. Is there Does council have any recommendations on a designee?
I spoke with Howard Smith the other day, and he said if he was selected, he would do it. He lives at the end of Elm Street. A lifelong resident, Pageman resident, works Sand Hills Telephone, and, I think he would be a good designee. I feel sure some other people have some, and he knows that he may not be selected. There might be some other individuals.
Or the two people I had reached out to said they wouldn't do it. One of them was Dickie Pig, and no, I'm done.
Can they be on, like, the planning commission for us, or can, or?
Yeah, they can be on the town's planning commission. They don't necessarily have to, but they can be on the
Okay,
planning commission.
I say Neil Griffin and David Rivers.
We only need
Only get one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, David's pointing at, Neil, so.
And I would be happy to do it. I have a background in strategic planning and development. That's what I did with my gas.
Who's the county appointed so far? Mr. Rivers, you appointed somebody already?
Yeah, but I don't even recall who it is.
Anybody else?
Just want to say the only reason I didn't approach any of those guys myself, well, they've been so busy with what they've had, when we originally asked for a planning commission like David, he's taken on a huge role, and that's why I didn't ask. They're meeting 5 times more than I ever thought they would right now, to be honest with you. I just hated to put any more on their plate. That was my thinking behind that.
If I could interject, I think it would, for continuity purposes, it would help to have someone from our planning commission be a part of, because it's just gonna be for the comprehensive plan development. It's not gonna be the meeting on a regular basis. I think we agreed upon with the county, if we join in, it's gonna be for the development of the plan, and then once that's done, they wouldn't have a seat at the table to vote on anything. It's just gonna be for plan development. So I'd say a couple of months. Or I want to take the, get study done for the plan.
So with that being said, do I have a motion who wants to make a motion for 2 names?
I'm gonna stand outside if you want me to. Can't hurt me.
They're non-voting, right?
Well, for this purpose, they are voting because this is the comprehensive plan. This is not the county planning commission, this is comprehensive plan.
This is them making up the plan?
We do have a voice in the comprehensive plan portion of this.
Okay.
But our representative,
They'll be meeting often. It's not gonna be just once in a while. Quite a bit involved in the comprehensive plan, just for the town of Fayetteville.
Right.
There's gonna be quite a few meetings involved. It's not gonna be once a month and done.
I'm already in Chesterfield every day.
There's your man, one of them.
so what's the recommendation? What could be one then? What could be one? Hmm? People flip a coin?
just trying to
Are you
keep it.
sure? Are you sure that's not too much meeting for you?
No, when I was at the bank, I worked 14, 18 hours a day,
I
usually
understand.
6 days a week.
I make a motion to designate Neil Griffin as our designee.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? If you're all in favor, raise your right hand. Next on the agenda is the administrator report, Mr. Sly.
All right, let's, got quite a bit of stuff on us, bear with me. Financial statement has, y'all should have a copy of that, and there's a copy of the report up there as usual. We've been working on the impact study this month. The planning commission has met twice this month looking at this impact study. Also, the department heads have looked at it, as well, during the department head meeting. The planning commission has also reviewed several properties for approval, in January. One of those being the Laney Farm project, which the commission, reviewed and approved the, preliminary plat. They also, looked at this annexation that y'all looked at tonight, just a few minutes ago. The town website has been undergoing some renovations. I don't know if any of you's been out there lately, but I've been working on it. This is a night and weekend project for me. This is not a, I don't have a whole bunch of time during the day to do a lot of it. Every now and then when I have a few minutes, I'll do some stuff in the daytime, but I've been working on it, nights and weekends. We're working on adding new information and pictures to it. If there's something you want to be on there, please, get the information to me so we can get it out there and try to make it available to the public. There was a boil water notice earlier this month. That it was lifted a few days later, after we got some lab tests back and made sure that everything was clear for, and everything was good for drinking, so. This was done out of, a lot of it was done out of precaution, just to make sure you may be getting more of those these days, 'cause, some of the, public works department, they're issuing these more and more, especially as they're attending some classes and learning more about it. The Mungo Street lift station, we did have a overflow, I don't remember if it was one or two, last month. We've had some, work done on some of the floats in it to kind of prevent some of these problems, found out some of the sensors in there were kind of old and that type of stuff, and so we've had some, work done on it. During the next round of grants, I plan on putting in a grant to replace that lift station. That is the oldest lift station that we have in town. The best indications that I can get is it dates to the fifties.
We got our money's worth.
Yes. The radio read water meter upgrades, they're planned to be finished next week. I don't know if y'all seen the little blue flags out beside your water meters in your yard. That's where they've been coming through and putting on the radio read function onto the water meters. It's mostly residential. There's not a whole lot of commercial or industrial. I do know Axhoy has a brand new meter, so I asked them to go ahead and put a radio read on it because it's a brand that, some of the older ones, especially some of the older ones, that are bigger size, a lot of them have been there a long time, and, some of them won't convert, some of them are, also, if you go to try to add in that radio read, the batteries are fell on because they're already old type of thing. So, but you'll see it a lot in the commercial areas, in the residential areas, they're trying to get through those. The Pinson and South plant will be the next project. As we finish up the radio reads, that's using the same funding that Pinson at the South plant is supposed to be using. So once that's finished, then we'll move forward with that project on the Pinson at the South plant. And all this is contingency money that's left over on the rural development grant from actually building the wastewater treatment plant. Inflow and infiltration grant, we'll be looking towards that and getting that towards the top of the list on the next round of grants as well. We'd like to be able to to get rid of some of the I&I. It happens whenever we have heavy rain events, we can contribute some I&I because we'll have heavy flows out of the wastewater treatment plant. So we, next round of grants, we're, after the Mungo lift station, next round of grants after that, we're gonna be focusing on some I&I studies to try to mitigate those problems. The apron out at the airport, I think I told you last month, it's been complete. We're, waiting on some punch list items to be finished up. We're hoping that apron will be open next week. We had some drainage problems, out there on the side of that where they just built it. We had, some erosion control put out there, and hopefully that'll stop that erosion before it gets started here. Department heads have been meeting, weekly, having, discussions on employment policy, town policy, and other aspects that affect their departments and their employees. It's been going good, and we've made some real progress. You're gonna see more, policy changes. You're gonna see, as long as this continues, you're gonna see quite a few policy changes. We're working on one right now. And I'll go ahead and give you a little heads up on it. We're looking at a sick bank, where employees donate time to a sick bank. That one's been, we've been working on that one about three or 4 weeks now. So we should have that for you to review in the March meeting. We have 3 employees in Public Works. They're going through working on getting their water distribution license. And the South Carolina Rural Water Association is assisting them in that process. I'd like to thank all of the town staff for the job that they continue to do. Many of these services that citizens of Pageland enjoy would not be possible if it were not for these hardworking individuals. And we truly appreciate the work that they do. Don't forget your ethics report is coming up on March 31st when it's due. And next month, council, if you would, please be in dress attire because we're going to take pictures for the town website.
Yeah.
We're asking for a coat and tie for the gentlemen, and something nice for the ladies, and so we can take pictures for the website.
Nothing orange.
Nothing orange.
Is that next council meeting?
Next council meeting, March 7th council meeting.
Yes,
We'd like to do that.
It's not SCDC, so
Well,
we can't do
he's-
orange.
I saw him in Beth's and he told me that we may do it this week, so I
Well,
messaged him yesterday and I was like, are we still doing it?
I didn't put out a notice for
I
that.
know, that's why I was just checking to make
Yeah.
sure that you hadn't yet.
And that's all I have.
Any questions, comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, ask a question of our administrator. In his opening presentation tonight, he said he had a letter there from the Economic Development Commission
Yes.
being opposed to these impact fees.
They were opposed to the industrial portion of the impact fee.
There is no industrial fee.
On our town's, impact fee, there is an industrial portion.
No, there is not.
Yeah, that is included on there, and that is in,
We have never charged one. We take them on an individual basis. Normally, if an industry's coming into Pageland, we pay them to come. We don't charge them for a building they're gonna put up.
state law requires if you impose it on a residential, you gotta impose it on industrial/commercial.
But when you do that.
I understand what state law says. That's what state law
If you
says.
do that, can you then do the alternative?
That's when you get back to that 6.1,
Okay,
10.50.
then we can
So-
do the
Our
alternative.
our attorney here, he so eloquently stated all the laws pertaining to this. I'm sure there's a way around us exempting
I'll
that
say-
on the fee.
I'll say this, Lancaster County Water Sewer District imposes industrial fees on their customers. Even if ours is done at the full amount, they reduce theirs by 50%. Theirs is still twice what ours is, what's been identified in the impact fee study.
I said, we've never charged one.
We've never had one. We never had that convenience of growth like we've had right now. So this is uncharted territory for both of us.
Well, hopefully we come to that point, we can eliminate those fees.
Why would you?
Like I said, we'll address additional questions. I said we don't want to get to a volley of back and forth questions. So
You gotta make money.
Is there any other questions? Any other questions we have? Is there anything, any other questions we have for town administrator? If not, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda. We have executive session identified in the items listed below. Need a motion to go into executive session. Got a motion? Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Who seconded that, Justin?
Mr. Hutto, yes. So we'll take about a 2-minute recess and then go into executive session.
All right.
The impact fee study? When you pay. The public paid 21, it was end up probably paying about 25, 26.
Thank you again, Jesse.
Yes, so for the part of it that we're not gonna need.
When you read them,
So
stick them
that's
in.
why it was only for 36,000. So we paid significantly less. I saw people commenting stuff, people throwing stuff to me 40,000. I'm like, 40,000. I don't know where that comes from. So that's why I said I was thinking
Range on there is about $40,000 for the study, so.
Yeah. So I figured I'd just say, rather than try to Facebook call you, so if I have your phone number, I said.
I think I got you in mind.